So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Liz, for your snow day talk. That was really a wonderful talk. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I do have a question as well.
Okay.
Okay, so it's Thanksgiving, and on Thanksgiving, I read another article, not in the Smithsonian. Actually, it was the Smithsonian. It was on an email that I get from them about a gentleman who's written a book about the quote unquote first Thanksgiving, and actually about the myth of Thanksgiving and how what you're taught in schools of, some people being the Pilgrims, some people being the Indians, and we all sit together and we have a nice little meal, and how that myth is so wrong, and how Thanksgiving, and of course I think Friday is like a different day. I'm not sure what it's called. It was on my Google, so you think I would remember it, but I don't. Which is kind of the no, we're not really thankful that you guys came here. The Europeans. And the article really, highlighted to me more than just, okay, they didn't have turkey and dinner rolls at the first Thanksgiving, all the myths that were there. And I suddenly had troubles saying to my family, Happy Thanksgiving, without saying, oh, by the way, did you know, which nobody wants to, or maybe somebody wants to hear, and maybe I should have, I don't know, but I'm back to that age-old question for me, which is celebrating something that for me is not what this myth is. Anyway, I don't think it is. Maybe it is, though. And the fact that myth is very harmful to people, to indigenous people. So what, again, I just don't know what to do with it, honestly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So first of all, let me just straighten the historical record. Thanksgiving came about in the Civil War, or just before the Civil War, around that time. And the idea was to give thanks that the Union still existed. So it didn't come in a straight line from whatever meal the Pilgrims from England, and I think it was the Wamapogs, shared. They actually shared several meals because the Wamapogs basically saved the Christians, had the Puritans. They had no idea how to survive, and so anyway, so that happened, and then there was, a couple of 100 years, and then there was Thanksgiving, and then somehow those two things became conflated. So that's the Thanksgiving myth. So, in your talk, Liz, you talked about I am here. So for people who see the video, Liz talked about how so much of what we do is just trying to establish I am here. She talked about giving her dog a walk in the snow this morning, and Doug kept marking, AKA peeing, everywhere to I am here, I am here, I am here. And she talked about graffiti in ancient temples that's being discovered by modern visioning technologies. And, I am here, I am here, I am here. So there's this assumption that we often have that we, and whatever group of people we're defining ourselves on in that moment, we are the central. We are the central people. We are here. I remember when my granddaughter was really young, and she would babble on and on, when she was like 4 and 5 and 6. She'd babble on and on about all these relatives. And she'd assume I knew who they were, but they were on the other side of the family, which is extremely large. I mean, she has, I don't know how many cousins and second cousins and third cousins that run around at the family gatherings. And I had no idea who these people were, but she had no idea that I had no idea, because she knew who they were, so I should know who they are. And I think we have that idea. So, you celebrate Thanksgiving or Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever it is, and you assume everybody else in the world is just like you. And so there's this assumption that everybody in the world is just like me. And then you blunder ahead without realizing, wait a minute, not everybody in the world is like me. So yeah, so it's this, I am here becomes we are here and we're the only ones. And it's this kind of, this really narrow vision where we don't think there's anything outside our world. And then sometimes, we have knowledge of the fact that, not everybody thinks that the Pilgrims coming to America was the best thing, or not everybody celebrates Christmas, or not everybody whatever. But even so, because it's what we do, it doesn't occur to us in the moment to look at who we're speaking to. It's this kind of cultural blindness that we have. And, it manifests in so many ways. It manifests in how we perceive people's gender and how we perceive people's sexuality and, how we perceive people's economic status. And in so many ways, we will say things just casually and with the best of intentions that assume that the person we're speaking is like us, is in our situation, and they're not. And so the question is, how do you keep your heart open? How do you keep aware of real differences and real sensitivities? And at the same time, it's fine to say Happy Thanksgiving to people who celebrate Thanksgiving. There's no problem with that, But to be sensitive and sometimes, you make a mistake, and then to be aware and back off. I'm sorry, I'm sorry I didn't, whatever. So, yeah, so that's a very human thing. And it's something we really need to be aware of, because there are all kinds of people everywhere. I remember one time in an interview a long, long time ago, and I realized I didn't know much about this person. So I said to him, do you have a sweetie, a boy or a girl? And the fact that I put boy first, I don't know what made me put it first, because I had no idea he was gay, but it turned out he was, and he was deeply closeted. And my saying that allowed him to uncloset himself. So to be aware of that kind of thing, that not everybody fits into whatever box we've put ourselves in, is very important. So that's my answer to your question. And yes, sometimes we will stumble and sometimes we will make mistakes. And as soon as we realize it, acknowledge it, do whatever we can to rectify it. So, happy Thanksgiving, Liz. Thank God it's over. Okay, yeah. Are there any other questions? Jen, you have a question?
So being on Zoom, I don't get to feel the presence of the people bowing next to me. I experienced that when I sat with the Pittsburgh Center, but is there anything written that kind of says, like, when do you stand? When do you sit? When do you bow? Like, I can kind of hear the moat talk.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Bowing. But maybe you could talk on that.
Okay, so we are usually highlighted, spotlighted rather. The Zen Center is almost always spotlighted, and that's why. That's so that you can follow our lead. I mean, yes, we have the Moktak marks a lot of things, but it's not always there. So it doesn't mark everything. And yes, sometimes the head Dharma teacher or the Moktak master will make announcements, but sometimes they don't. And some things just are never announced, like when we're sitting down, it's not announced. So we just make our screen as big as possible so that you can follow it. When COVID started and we went completely online, and at first we didn't bow because we didn't know about spotlighting. And the reason we didn't bow together was because if somebody isn't spotlighted, it's like popcorn popping because of the time lapse, you know, and this person's going up and this person's going down, and, you know, this person's in the middle, and it's like, it's really like popcorn popping. And then finally we discovered Spotlight, and then we were able to bow together. So yeah, and I will say something, and Liz pointed this out when she came to a retreat with us. She said, you know, when I'm in the Dharma room, I'm not aware of the people online, even though we do have this screen, you know, this big screen here, but wherever you put it in the room, most of the room will not be able to see it. So you guys online have the advantage that you can see each other, you know, as well as us. Whereas we can basically see us, and a few people sitting in certain parts of the room can see you, but largely can't. So it's, you know, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. It's like our notion of time and space is greatly enlarged because we're here together right now. We're all here together, wherever we happen to be. See, I think the furthest away is Florida, if I'm correct. I don't know where oh, yes, right, you and Shuang, right. Yes, right, Margaret and Shuang are both in Florida, and Shuang's kids. And sometimes we have people from Europe and Israel and Asia, you know, joining in. And here we are, we're together. It's kind of amazing. You know, there's a stupid time lag of 1/20th of a second or whatever it is, but, you know, here we are. And if you want a demonstration of this world is vast and wide, this is it. This world is vast and wide, and it's deeply, deeply, deeply interconnected. So that's more than you asked, but I hope I answered what you asked. Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Well, I guess it's time for announcements then. So thank you, everybody.